He's so innocent and quiet, and then just loses it out of nowhere, and I could see that like being a beautiful scene.
Drive-by movies you're watching sequeled. My name's Blaise.
And I'm James.
And this week we're talking sequel to one of my favorite movies, Battle Royale. So I saw Battle Royale at a young age, pretty much, and this movie definitely affected me. I think I had heard about it months before. It's like I have an older brother, shows me like weird shit that you probably shouldn't see when you're younger. I think I was about 13 when I watched the movie, and it had a huge impact on me. It's one of my favorite movies probably ever. I think next to Dawn of the Dead. There's just certain movies when you watch, like a movie at a young age that it impacts you where you're like, oh, this is my favorite like thing. And I don't know, you might think that that's weird, that's my favorite movie, but I think it has a lot of great lessons in it, like friendship, and I think that that's why honestly it's one of my favorite movies.
Also the political aspect of it though too, I thought was always pretty fun about it.
Yeah, definitely, especially in the first movie. It's kind of about this fascist government essentially that enacts this act that makes it so they really can't control the youth in the country, and they want everyone to kind of be scared that anyone can turn on them, that even your friends, your neighbors, whatever, can turn on you. So they enact this, if you don't know about Battle Royales, they enact this situation in which they take one junior high school class and just pit them in a battle of the death against each other. And this is really popular in mainstream culture today with all the video games. Fortnite, you have Warzone, Call of Duty, Blackout, and literally every Battle Royale game came essentially from this movie. Some people might think Hunger Games. Guess what? Sad to tell you, Hunger Games also stole this concept from the film Battle Royale. So it is the original Battle Royale, and I think right now more than ever, if there's going to be so many of these Battle Royale style video games, this movie could be something that could take off. The only problem with it is the movie we talked about recently, The Hunt, had issues with it even being released, with the state of what was going on at the time when it first got banned essentially, or shelved, was just there were school shootings happening. This movie I'm not saying that the movie would do anything to be insensitive about those moments, but just the general concept, it is kind of insensitive. So I could see this movie never getting, people have talked about that American reboot happening. I don't think it's ever going to happen personally. So I just wanted to think, if theoretically it could happen, where could I take it? So basically I want it to be, instead of doing like a Battle Royale 3, because the last film was Battle Royale 2, instead of doing a Battle Royale 3, I want to make, the American reboot of the original Battle Royale film. I want it to be set in America. I want in that world, basically they know about the original Battle Royale that started in Japan and how successful it was in controlling the population, and especially the youth that disrespects their teachers, disrespects anyone in a sense of power. So even disrespecting governors, mayors, presidents, whatever, they got to enact fear into the youth again. So the American government is going to enact a Battle Royale Act in high schools across America. Basically wanted to be like, since 1999, American terrorists have plagued the states. School shootings have burdened everyone, and the president enacts the Battle Royale Act to whip the nation's youth back into shape and keep them under control. So we really have to up the ante from all the other films. The original films, I think there's about 50 people. The second film, I don't remember because it's so different than the first film, but right. We got to up the number. We got to make it more realistic, more like these Battle Royale games that kids are playing. 100 students, American class sizes are bigger, so I think that would make sense in the future. Maybe like what if the class size for a public school was like 100 students? I think that's a good number to start out. The kill count, the body count has to be up higher, I think, for this movie to really get people interested in it, or you're just gonna want to go play Fortnite. Let's be honest here.
Right.
So essentially, I wanted to change the game a little bit, make it a little more interesting. So I thought that ways to enact that would be maybe a leaderboard that's at the end of the day. Uh, if you have the highest count, like kill count, your location would be available to everyone on GPS. Since everyone would have these like GPS kind of trackers, they could see, who is the most dangerous on their map, essentially. And the lowest members would receive coordinates to hidden weapon caches from their GPS to help them or inspire them, I guess, to enter the game, essentially. Because a lot of people aren't going to want to. I mean, honestly, if I was stuck in this, I would not want to. I would go out, like I would jump off a rock or something. Like we saw people in the first film. This does not sound like a good idea, so I would not be engaging in this essentially. And I think a lot of people would struggle with it. But if they found, oh, maybe my way out is this, this thing that I could find, this hidden weapon cache could help me maybe get through this battle royale. So I think that would make it more interesting. The only thing is that having, the lowest players, have an upper edge, and the highest players, get something against them where everyone knows where they are. It could add like a horror element, but it also does, like in the political aspect, it does kind of make it more communistic in a way, which I guess would be like a funny parody essentially, because it does take place in America. So it would be funny that would be the ideals that they were trying to give people, but really the game is very fascist, obviously. So you still have this political commentary that's going on in the background, even though it is kind of muddled and doesn't make sense. But I think it would be interesting. But basically the story is going to be very similar to the first film. I want like it to open up with, maybe 15 minutes of it just seeming like a regular drama. You get no idea that this is what's going on besides the title of the film. But there's going to be this teacher that's being bullied. His name's Mr. Hoover, and he's going to be bullied. And I think we need to bring back some aspects that the original Battle Royale had. So I want you to pick a American stand-up comedian to be this teacher. Like I have someone in my mind, but who would you pick that could be like a teacher that would be getting bullied and then is gonna basically nominate his class to be in Battle Royale?
Absolutely, Rory Scovel. He's so innocent and quiet, and then just loses it out of nowhere, and I could see that like being a beautiful scene.
For some reason, I thought of Jim Gaffigan. I don't know why. I just thought Jim Gaffigan, like, I've never seen a scary side of him, but I think, like, he definitely has the ability to, show that scary side, so that would be funny. But I do like the idea of Rory Scovel. I think he's a great stand-up comedian. I think he could be funny and add, like, elements of comedy to the movie, like Takeshi Kitano did in the original film. But still, you're right, like Rory has this side to him where he could be kind of scary, where he's like yelling at the audience, and it is funny and because you're at a stand-up comedy show. But what if it was in this movie? That would actually be really scary, and he could be very imposing. So basically they're going to go on a field trip, kind of like the original film. They're going to go to the Griffith Observatory. As they pass through a tunnel, nobody wakes up. They all wake up in an auditorium. None of the students so far you feel like you can even root for, because they were like bullying the teacher. The teacher was having like a mental breakdown, and you saw Rory Scovel, Mr. Hoover, having a mental breakdown. But he wakes him up in this auditorium. They play this instructional video. We got to Americanize the instructional video. It's got to have a lot of motion graphics, because the original one was like kind of cheesy and very Japanese. This one's got to be like almost like one of those like government videos you see as you're walking through TSA.
Yeah. One thing that I love so far about your story, though, is how you integrated like kind of all these video games are like based off of this original movie, but now you're kind of drawing some inspiration from some of the more fun games that we've gotten out of it, which is cool. Like I do love the idea of like having a leadership board and enticing people to want to like have to kill people in a sick, twisted way. Like it's fun so far. But what other cool ideas like did you have to flesh out the movie?
So I was thinking, and I'll kind of throw this back to you, but originally in the original Battle Royale, you had people that were grabbing these bags as they exit and enter the game, and the bag could have anything in it. It could be, something as useless as a fork or a boxing glove, or something like like a gun or a samurai sword, you know, that could be more useful. Some of the interesting things that were also in there were GPS trackers. I'm taking that out of the game. Everyone's going to get a GPS tracker. It's not just going to be one character, but maybe one character just might have like a chip where they could unlock it and see everyone to kind of bring that element back. Or even there was a bulletproof vest in the first one. So those are just some ideas of the original movie. I want to ask you, and then I'll come up with some ideas, but what do you think would be fun to see in a movie that we didn't see in the first one or even the second one? Because they didn't have that. Everyone just got guns in the second one, which was kind of lame.
It would be cool, I think, to see like airdrops of supplies where people have to fight for them essentially, or sometimes people do want to, you know, like work together and like be like, oh, let's all ration like this food that they just dropped for us, and then just have terrible scenes where one person doesn't give a fuck and like kind of ruins it for everyone and is there literally to get as much points as possible and make it out of there.
So I think that would be funny if someone got like, I think there was even a flag in the first one, or like a megaphone, which are absolutely useless. So it's kind of bad. That would be a bad luck draw, I guess you could say. But I think we'd have to limit the amount of guns, leave them into like, you know, either these hidden weapon caches, or like you said, like an airdrop. I think that's a great idea, something you could even take from these video games that they've utilized. We're not going to have any building materials like Fortnite, sorry guys, but maybe throwing some of those in the bags as kind of a joke, like a piece of wood and some nails or like a hammer, just to make that joke to Fortnite would be kind of funny. But maybe, you know, more weapons that were, I guess, kind of the same similar weapons as the first one, just try and up the ante a little bit on some. Maybe someone only has bullets but they don't have a gun or something. That could be a funny, like, because it is a useful thing, but then it's not at the same time because you can't do anything with it. I think bringing in those elements, taking some of the elements from these video games and implementing them in a way that maybe add jokes like the Fortnite joke, or even, you know, different elements to the game essentially, would really make it interesting.
Right, yeah. No, I love that idea. I think it'd be a funny scene. Maybe someone gets a piñata but doesn't think to open it up or anything.
Yeah, something like that. I definitely want to make this the most Americanized in a sense, because you can play with the fact that it's in a public school, so these are underprivileged kids that are tougher. You know, they're a lot tougher. And then even you can bring in the element of race in a way of, you know, some of these kids are banding together with their groups of friends, and, you know, something like I think you could do something more interesting in America where, you know, everyone in the Japanese film obviously, you know, comes from the same background and ethnicity, obviously, so you don't have those interesting race relations, which if you set this game in America, you could have something a lot more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think like maybe integrating some of the themes that we saw in Attack the Block, where like, oh, the government sent these aliens in to take out us black kids and stuff. You could bring in stuff like that where, you know, like a lot of people are just like, why were we thrown into here? And you can have some cool commentary with that.
Yeah, most definitely. I want it to be that, but I also want to bring in, which I think at the root of it, something that this film could really talk about would be the issue with you know, school shootings. I'm not saying that this film's going to solve that. Obviously it's not. It is entertainment at its core, but I think you can have somebody who clearly signed up, like in the first film, someone who signed up because they're a complete psychopath. So you could have that person in this film. Like I don't know exactly, I haven't thought, you know, where we could go with that entirely, but you definitely can bring up, you know, that subject. This is kind of trying to get these kids out of doing that, you know, in an environment all around, you know, the nation, as opposed to, you know, in this controlled environment. It's obviously not a good solution though.
I think a good idea with that, like, I love that idea, but like have a kid who maybe keeps getting expelled every year specifically to go back to this like sanctuary, or well, you know, not sanctuary, but, you know, this battlefield,
this killing ground essentially.
So
and I think that this could be an interesting movie. Like I said though at the beginning of this, there's no way that this film is getting made. In just when this film was originally made in I think it was 1999, the original Battle Royale, that wasn't as much of an issue, because I think, or maybe it was 2000, I think, and that was the same year that Columbine happened. So that wasn't really an issue that you saw around the world. Now it's entirely around the world. It's very sad to even think about that people
Right.
are doing these sorts of things still to this day, and it only increases. But I don't think that this film would ever get made. And it is entertainment, but it's just at the core of it, the idea is way too insensitive in a way. I don't think it would happen as much as like I would probably want it to. I just think that whoever bought the rights to it in America they know it's shelved. It's not gonna happen.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a sequel I would have loved to have seen from your end, just because we did get a Battle Royale too, but it just went in a different direction than I think everyone expected. That one's fun and entertaining, but in its own weird way. But this is definitely more streamlined to where like we're getting more Battle Royale. This is like kind of the sequel I always wanted to see. And yeah, it's a bummer that we'll probably never get really any movie like this or it's anything like that. But if we do, this is the direction I'd love to see it going.
Definitely. So that's going to be it for this week, guys. If you haven't seen it, the original Battle Royale, I definitely recommend going ahead and checking that out. It's available. If you click the Amazon affiliate link in the description box below, you can check it out.
After doing that, be sure to leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about the movie as well as our idea for a sequel. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to get all our latest updates.
That's it for this week, guys. Tune in next week for a brand new video.